Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host Mr. Brian Hinkley, Assistant Director of Grounds for Athletic Facilities at Liberty University. Such an awesome podcast with honestly one of the greatest people you ever meet. Kind-hearted, always looking out for those around him. And we really dive into the different areas in which we discuss the Virginia STMA and how we work on the board together, and how he served this industry for long before I ever entered it, and truly just been an awesome opportunity to have the chance to talk about everything that he's got going on at Liberty and really just show everyone what it is to be passionate about what we're doing and how we are doing it, you know. You don't want to miss out on this episode because, again, Brian just has everything to offer and all the knowledge in the world and truly is an awesome guy. We hope you enjoy this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good afternoon and welcome to the 78th episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. Today we have on just one of the best guys you'll ever meet. We have Brian Hinkley, Certified Sports Field Manager, the Assistant Director of Grounds for Athletic Facilities at Liberty University. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing good. Doing good, Drew. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, of course. Thanks for taking the time. So we actually met, it's been quite some time now. I think it's back in like 2014 or something.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Was it Denver or was it, it was one of those STMAs or SFMAs, and we went out.
It was probably Denver. I think it was Denver. Yeah.
So we went out and you guys treated the tech students and everything. And that was the first time I ever met you. And ever since then, I mean, it's been just always great seeing you and just one of the best guys I know in the industry. What has it been like for you sort of being a part of sort of the VSTMA? Obviously, we're on the board together right now. But kind of just want to get your sort of talk, because I mean, 2014, that was a long time ago. You've been serving on it for so long. Coming up on your time to be vice president, which again, congratulations, by the way.
Thank
president, you are vice president. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I pay attention in the meetings I do. I promise. Don't. But what's it been like for you, again, sort of being a part of that chapter and playing such a big role in it moving forward?
I mean, I'm glad you think I played a big role. I think I do a small part, nothing major, you know, but
come on,
but it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I mean, really, just the friendships I've gained, the people I've met in the industry, especially kind of in our state, in our, you know, that deal with the same problems that we deal with on a daily basis. You know, you got somebody to run and talk to. Sometimes it's just venting. Sometimes it's, hey, I need some help. And sometimes you're given help. And that's awesome. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me as far as being part of the VSTMA and even in being on the board and using that experience, you know, having been in the organization for over 15 years and being on the board for several. I mean, being able to pass that along to new people, you know, I'm kind of by nature an introverted, quiet person, but, you know, being part of the organization and eventually being on the board has really kind of helped me and forced me to open up a little bit and, you know, put myself out there a little more than I would, you know, more than I want to. But it's been all good things. Just all that networking and friendships and the knowledge, the collective knowledge that everybody shares. And it's been a great time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on the fact that, again, like right here, you know, it's good to have that network at home, especially for, I know, no offense to any other SFMA or STMA, whoever it is, but here in the transition zone, there are so many things that go AWOL, and it's so nice to be able to call someone and be like, hey, what did you do for this? Like, my field has all this spring dead spot for no good reason when last year I had one spot. Like, it's always nice to have that sort of close connection and everything with that. Now, something that we've been working on as like a board and everything is sort of expanding upon certain field days, opportunities to become members, stuff like that. What has it been like for you sort of seeing, again, being a person that is taking charge and making field days possible, obviously hosting, I'm sure over the years, a few field days of your own. What do you think the overall, I guess, the job of a chapter of the SFMA, STMA still, which I was going to bring up tomorrow in the meeting, but
I think that changes. we think that's going to happen. Not to allude to anything, but we'll see how it goes. But
yeah, for sure.
we're hoping to align with the large organization. But I think obviously our role as the VSTMA, we want to be recognized as the leaders in the sports turf industry in the state of Virginia. And with the people that we have in our organization, I think that's who we are, as a group. And part of that is we want to, bring value to our members and to anybody that's involved in whether it's from rec league, high schools, all the way up to college, professional, whatever it is. We want to be a resource for them to have that knowledge, information, and other people that can help, whatever that may be. I've probably said 100 times today because that's really a huge thing for me with that, and I think that's a big part of it.
No, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Now, I'm always curious because I see the benefits of both having the VSTMA and the SFMA national membership. For you, obviously, localized, having that benefit of network, whatnot. But what has it been like for you being a member of the national organization and sort of,
Sure.
Again, that's how we met, being at the conference and seeing everybody and whatnot. What has it been like for you, and how has that benefited your career?
Well, I mean, professionally, it's been the best thing I do every year. I look forward to it so much. It's a great trip. The first time, a little apprehensive. You don't know what to expect, or what you're going to do or what you're going to see. But man, it's like I said, it's the highlight of my year. I get to see, now that I've been going for several years, I get to see people that I've met years ago, and I may only talk to them that one time, every year, but we talk every time, and it's always a great, time of just getting together. And like I said, it's similar to the VSTMA as far as the networking, but at a national level. And I would say even, for your students, if they get a chance to go, they can make those networking connections, and that could lead to jobs or, future career paths that would be, it's invaluable. You can't put a dollar number on that,
Absolutely. Completely agree. Now talking about careers, you've had a phenomenal one at Liberty. And it's always awesome to see you post stuff about, what you used to do way back in the day. Not to say when I was in high school or anything, but like before you had artificial.
I've been doing this a few years.
Just a couple, nothing crazy. But like,
I'm gonna tell you though, it goes by so fast, man.
Yeah, and again,
you probably have experienced that a little bit, but holy cow.
Yeah, I have kids.
20 years has gone by.
I have kids graduating from the turf program today, and I'm sorry they couldn't be there. But
that's awesome though. That's awesome.
Yeah, the time does fly. With everything, Liberty has gone through such a transformation when it comes to the athletic facilities. Baseball becoming a big power force in not just their division, but competing against ACC teams all the time. The softball team obviously has increased their capabilities and their abilities, and the facilities followed along with that. Like I was saying, seeing back when the game field was natural for baseball versus now with the whole stadium.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you, just sort of throughout your career there, seeing those changes, and how has it been beneficial to you and your crew?
Sure. So I never really kind of answered your first question, but I'll get both of them probably at the same time here. So my journey so kind of an interesting story, but when I was 15, I was living upstate New York, which is where my family is from. And I had lived here prior to that for the first 10 years of my life. And I always wanted to come back. This is where friends and family were, that I had made when I was younger. I came back to Lynchburg when I was 15 and lived with a family friends of ours. And I wanted to play football for LCA, which I ended up graduating from. And I had an awesome time there. But that first summer, originally I came down just to stay with them and have a good time. My older brother had done that, and I was like, that sounds like a fun thing to do. I did that and ended up getting a job at Liberty, working on the grounds crew. And that first summer, I was on the projects crew, and I helped lay some sidewalks with some concrete work. I built some stairs out of railroad ties, did a whole bunch of random tasks. But I ended up wanting to stay. So I stayed for that next school year, and over the next 3 years between my high school years, I worked at Liberty and did different tasks each summer. So the one summer, the high school football practice field needed a lot of work. And it was down alongside a creek bed underneath a railroad track. It was just kind of a little, podunk little thing. I mean, when I started working on it that summer, it was a hayfield, really. So I mowed it down, and my boss at the time, Randy Johnson, who had actually, interesting fact, he was the first VSTMA president. I don't know if anybody remembers or know too many people. He retired a couple years ago, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. But anyways, he allowed me to work on that field that summer, and I pumped water out of the creek and moved irrigation heads around to get it and mowed it, and I learned to paint the lines, and that's kind of where I got my introduction into sports turf. At the time, it was just a summer job, no big deal. Finished high school, started college. My plan before I met my now wife in high school, my plan was to go in the military, and I don't know what that was going to lead to. Ended up not doing that. My next plan was I went to Liberty, started at Liberty. It was actually pre-med, started with some anatomy classes and things like that, and did okay, but realized, ended up marrying my wife after first year of college, and then kids started coming along, and school kind of dropped off. But so I started working full time at Liberty, and over the first few years there, did a little bit of everything. I mean, I was on the horticulture crew. I did the mowing and weeding, a little bit of athletic field stuff, but the school was still pretty small at that point. And I actually ended up I was the trash guy for 2 years for a while. And towards the end of that part of it, I was actually, the school was starting to grow. Athletics was starting to get a little bit bigger, just a little bit of growth. And I would do trash in the mornings, and then in the afternoons, I would work on the athletic fields, and that went on for a little while. And then, shortly after that, university decided they wanted somebody working full time on athletic fields, and it was me. I was a one-man crew at that time. So it was kind of crazy, but to the second question, just, seeing the growth, it has been phenomenal. And we've been blessed. The founder of the university, Dr. Falwell, wanted to, advance the mission of the university and our faith through athletics. And what a great platform to do that. In competitive culture, it can be hard. You button heads, you're fighting, but then after the game, you know what? Hey, I love you, man. Let me share Jesus with you. That kind of thing. And it's been awesome, and the school's been able to do that, and on a bigger platform every year. It's growing and growing and growing. Football's been to bowl games. I mean, I never thought that was ever going to happen. And winning bowl games, not just being there. We had our quarterback this past year was projected to go pretty high in the draft. Ended up going a little lower, but man, he's still going to make an impact, and he's going to be a great NFL player. I mean, it's all things that when I first started working here, and most of the people at the school never thought would ever be possible, and yet here we are. So it's been awesome to see that growth. And along that, there's been some growing pains, of course, and that's normal as part of it. And we kind of have to work through those things and figure out what's next. What's next? How do we fit the needs of what we're trying to do? So it's been awesome to be part of a small part of it, I think. But it's been a blessing to be here.
One man crew makes you a big part of it. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Well, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No,
go ahead. I didn't want to jump to the next question because that kind of alluded to some other things there, but I'll let you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I absolutely love your story. When people talk about the grind and talk about the work and whatnot, you don't really know that until you, again, things like being the trash man, doing different things each and every year, getting to the point where you can take this role as the assistant athletic director of facilities. When it comes to, again, what you're passionate about, which is just awesome to hear. It's what everybody should be striving for in their lives. So I think that's completely so awesome. Now, with that, you said, again, you started at Liberty, kind of fell off with education and everything. When did the education portion come in? Because obviously you had a lot of work to get done and a lot of training and whatnot you basically taught yourself how to take care of turf. So and
I had some help along the way, but that's kind of, I alluded to that a little bit earlier with the SCMA and STMA and some other mentors, and, Randy Johnson being one. I mean, he had a lot of knowledge that he shared with me. But those played a huge part, but for me, education never ends, whether it's formally in a school setting or if it's literally in the field, physically doing the work, whatever it is, or looking up stuff online or reading magazines or going to conferences, seeking out that never ends. It should never end for anybody, you've got to constantly be learning and growing and, keeping up with what's the newest next best thing. You kind of get stuck in that rut, you're in trouble. You're going to go downhill. There's no in between. It's either you're going up or you're going down. There's really no middle ground. So education is huge. And like I said, it doesn't, college isn't necessarily for everybody. I know that's maybe an unpopular opinion sometimes, but especially in industry like ours, where it's physical labor a lot, or there's a lot of other jobs like that too. We need those in this country, and the world goes around on those backs of those people, in my opinion. So, there's nothing wrong with that. Get out there, get some experience, find what you love, and do it.
100%. I I always, and again, Dr. Goatley, don't come after me. You know, I love you. Again, one of the greatest people I know. But
Absolutely.
I learned more on the job than I did in the classroom, you know, and it's nothing against my professors. And I do use, obviously, I'm a teacher now, so I have to use what I learned in the classroom because I'm teaching
Absolutely.
it. But at the same time, like being in a hole with Casey Underwood down at Virginia Tech, like understanding how to work irrigation, stuff like that, there really isn't anything that is more sort of educational in a sense than that. You know, like you're never going to really truly know how to fix anything unless you are in the situation, living in the moment, and having those like the time to go in and see it, you know. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's a big part of what we're trying to do with the VSDMA is, I mean, we're having the field day up here. There's a field day, I think in Salem, they said they're going to try and do it, but like all these different things, like being able to do that. And I think the other thing with us is that we have sort of, and again, I could be wrong. Nobody come after me, please. But we have a sort of a responsibility to take our knowledge and pass it along to those that don't know. You know, I think a lot of people, again, you guys do a phenomenal job, but the whole artificial turf monster in the sense, it happens, you know, it's going to happen. Obviously, there's still a lot, and you guys do a phenomenal job of making sure it's safe for the players the best you can, you know, without having it replaced every 2 years or something like that. But with that, like making sure people are aware of the need of who these people are. I mean, COVID proved it, you know, COVID had very few jobs that were open, and you guys were probably in all the time for that first month and a half, you know, obviously probably not together, but we had so many people that were laid off and didn't have jobs and didn't have opportunities, and we were an essential worker, like, and it's not like there was games going on, you know, there was still stuff like had to be managed, you know. And I love to
that point though,
go ahead.
We took it as a, you know, we kind of sold it, us needing to work as, you know, protecting the investment, especially on the grass field. You know, if you just let them go, I mean, it's going to cost way more and be more, you know, time consuming to get back to normal when the time was over. So yeah, we had to kind of work through it. It was not the fun time for anybody, but we did what we had to do, you know, we did what we had to do, made it happen.
Yeah, that was our thing. It was weird. So when COVID hit, I got permission for me and 3 students to be managing our facilities. Like, I was like, well, I didn't know I'd get that approval, but no one was allowed in their school buildings. No one was allowed in anything. We were the only ones allowed to do anything. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. That is cool.
But again, you were talking about like going up or going down. I was like, well, if you're going down in the grass business, you're probably not going to have a job for too long, you know?
Exactly. And that's why education is so important, right? I mean, you always got to be constantly learning, growing, and moving. And like you mentioned before, in the transition zone, it's different every year. You sometimes you never know what you're going to get. You know, you can kind of have a plan in place and do what you think is going to work, and it might not this time. You know, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, so we'll get into this. I'll see how it's been going for you. It's so damn mild, and I'm pardon my French, but like,
we need some warm weather.
like I'm like, come on, we're there. Nope. 30 degrees. Nope. Oh, nope.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you this year? You know, getting everything ready, and obviously you're coming to the end of your spring sports. Lacrosse is natural grass, right?
No, it's not. So I'll get into that just a little bit.
No, so let's do that. Let's do that first before we get into this. What is your facility sort of like makeup and whatnot, and just where are you managing and what your role is, you know, as the assistant athletic director, you know?
Sure. So I think most people don't realize. No, it's all good. I felt like it made more sense to.
No, 100%. I went off the rails. My bad.
I'm sure I have to, or will.
No, you've been great.
So, you know, most people think we take care of not just Liberty. We also have LCA. We have the high school fields, and all of those are natural grass. So there's football practice field, football field that they play games on, and soccer games on. Another football practice field. They've got a band practice field. They've got a small golf facility, baseball and softball field. So, I mean, there's, you know, 12 acres right there of natural grass. That's most of it's Bermuda, but the baseball and softball fields are actually bluegrass mostly. So that's a challenge sometimes too. And then on the LU side, we've got our soccer field and our soccer practice field are grass, as well as we've got an intramural softball field that's grass, and our band practice field is grass. But then obviously baseball, softball, lacrosse, field hockey, obviously football, baseball, softball. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of fields, and I'll be honest with you, for the size of my crew, if some of them were grass, it'd be tough the size of the crew that we have right now. Which doesn't mean we couldn't ramp it up and do what we need to do, but that's kind of where we're at as far as what we have. But going back to the question about this year, yes, I felt like since February, I felt that we're 3 weeks behind weather-wise what we normally are. I sprayed out the ryegrass last week on our grass fields that we do that. And I've got Bermuda, but it's not thriving. It's not loving life right now, but it's there, which is good. But yeah, it's been a little slow, even on the bluegrass fields. I mean, it was middle of March before they were green and healthy. And it's usually kind of towards the end of February. We're in really good shape for the high school baseball and softball season starting up. So, I haven't really pushed them too hard with fertilizer or anything this spring, just one early app and just trying to, get through the season. And playoffs start next week for those sports. So we still got a little ways to go with that. Baseball and softball's playing right now, actually, down in Florida in the ASUN tournament. And baseball was at Tech last night and lost a close one. I mean, I don't know if you saw that at all, but
I think it was like
we were up 1-0. Or it ended up being the ninth inning, but we were up 1-0. We were up 1-0 until the ninth inning, and they scored a walk-off hit and won 2-1. It was kind of
that's a rough one,
but it was a tough game. But like you said earlier, I mean, we're competing with Texas number 5 team in the country.
I was going to say number 5 team. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. So I can't complain too much, but
100%.
They've had a great season. So, anyways, yeah, it's been a little slow, but still trying to move forward with our normal. I mean, right now we're in the mode of thinking about the fall. We've got to be prepping for fall sports starting. So that's where we're at.
100%. That, and it's I don't know why, it might just be me, but it's really hard for me because when I'm like trying to prep and everything, my mind like shuts down when the school year ends. It's like, no. We gotta get this ready. We gotta get this ready. Yep.
Yep.
And we have a monkey wrench coming in. So we have this big project going on. We have a new concession stand / bathroom, and then with the support of our admin at the county level, they're actually putting artificial turf fields on all the game fields in the county except for ours, which they're not doing. They've been doing it over years, but sort of said, hey, do it on the practice field so you don't destroy our program. But we were not.
Well, at least I was gonna say, at least you're able to fight that. I know that.
Which I actually didn't too. I was quiet. I was quiet.
Yeah.
My AD, I'm quiet. I didn't say anything. No, but the county was very gracious and understanding. I can't thank them enough for that. But
sure.
Yeah, there's the monkey wrench of the track being redone around that field. So they have
Yep.
I don't know how much they're doing, but they're taking out enough of the field. So we're gonna see how that goes. But
maybe it'll be a good thing. You turn it into a positive and kind of.
Yes, we're hoping that all the grade is fixed because our field is very not graded well. But
I see that a lot around here. No, I know what you mean, though. I mean, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus or anything specific, but a lot of the high schools. My son plays high school sports right now. He's junior, and I've been to all the schools in our area around here.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I try not to pick them apart, but I'm kind of man, it wouldn't take but this much effort, and things could be so much better.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of part of where the SFMA comes into play. That's kind of why we try to put that out there and help those programs out.
Get a little understanding, and that's the thing. And you bring up a great point. The I don't want to say it's like arrogance or anything, but it's the lack of caring even a little bit. You know what I mean?
Even a little bit.
Again, it's not athletic directors and whatnot because they just don't know. No. It's just
right.
As a school building, you should be able to see, hey, that needs a little help. What can we do? Yep. Oh, there's people that do this. Let's go talk to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
most school divisions can't afford to have a sports manager on staff.
Exactly, 100%.
And that is what it is. So okay, how do we make it work with what you do have?
Yeah.
And if that's just some knowledge and timing application of products, or just simple things that can make a drastic difference without having to break the bank or your back, and make it better for the athletes.
Yeah. So we just got called by a school, about an hour away from our school, but I won't name names. They called us out, and their field's in bad shape, and 90% of it's POA, and it's
Ooh.
It's not even bluegrass; it's a Bermuda grass field. I'm like, how did you do this exactly? Like,
how did it get to that point? Yeah,
did you not spray out anything? Like, what are we? And it was this like, I'm sitting here and they're like, what can we do? And I'm like, well, it needs a lot. And we just went through like the options and whatnot, and they were like so grateful like to have us out and just talk and understand
sure, sure.
who should be doing what, how should they be doing this, what should they be expecting, like understand what they should be looking for when they're doing the renovation, you know.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think would do a lot. And I feel like as an organization, not just the VSTMA, but SFMA, we need to be able to put ourselves out there in a sense to like, hey, we are here to help you.
Oh. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Just listen to what we say a little bit, and your fields are going to be 10 million times safer and better than they are. You know, so sorry to go off.
But I think that's why. No, it's okay. But because I'm with you, and I think that's also why a lot of school districts are going to that artificial route. It's something they don't have to worry about. They think they can put it in, do nothing, and it's good to go. They've solved their problem.
So and to that,
we all know that's not entirely true.
100%, 100%. And to that, like, again, I don't have anything. I do have a thing against it. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I do too. We have a lot of it here, and I do. I mean, I'll tell you, we fought pretty hard last year. We just replaced our baseball and softball fields on our second artificial turf field.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we were this close to going back to grass. We had the coaches were on board. Some of our ADs were on board, and it just got shut down kind of last minute, and they didn't want to do it. So back to what, and that's the thing. Like it's frustrating because we feel like we do a good job, with the grass.
100%. You guys do. Your soccer field.
But sometimes that's still. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not enough to sell it, though. Like the coaches or the administration has other reasons for what they're doing, and it's not a cut against us. It's not that we did wrong. It's just what they want to do. And as much as we hate it, all of us in the industry, it's part of it. I don't think it's going away.
100%.
And I mean, so
I do think there's a shift coming. I will say that.
I think so too. I think some more education and people being out there and being vocal about it helps bring it back to it kind of returns, kind of revolves, revolving door there. But I also feel like my job is as a sports turf manager is to make sure that whatever fields are playing on is safe.
1,000%.
That's part of my job. As much as we wish everything was grass, we still have to do what we have to do to make sure those things are good.
Yeah. And again, so I think that's the scariest part about it, is the fact that these suppliers and people that installed like, oh, just drag it every once in a while, you'll be fine. No, no.
So much more to it.
And there's so much more to it. And the fact that like they don't understand that there is like a few $1,000s that they should be doing worth of like work on it every year. Like no one knows that. No one puts that money towards that. And I think the scariest thing about all of it is that we've had the opportunity to talk to a few NFL guys that are conversions managers for like FCs versus NFL teams. Like they replace them every 2 years. Like,
yep. And nobody knows that at the high school level.
Nobody knows at the high school level. They're like, I got an 8 to 10. Like, no, you don't. Okay. Because you don't know how to manage it, A, and B, they're doing it every 2 years. And the other thing is they only have like 9 games a year, like, yes, they have events, but that's not causing that much compaction compared to, again, play in the sense. And it's like, whoa, why aren't we concerned about this? Sorry, I keep going off on tangents.
That's all right. I mean, it's a complicated issue, and there's a lot of aspects and a lot of parties involved in it. But
100%, and I think that's awesome that you were so close to getting it back. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Hopefully, with the surgence of the football program, there's a little shift there.
Well, I was told in a meeting, if we move to the SEC, then it'll go grass. Like, okay, well, let's do that. I don't know that it'll happen anytime soon, but I think we be where we are. So
that's amazing. They were like joking about it, but in like 2 years.
Yeah, but I'm gonna hold them to the word. I'll record it. I make sure it comes back to them.
2021, 9 p.m. No, 100%. That's so good. That would be awesome. But no, hopefully, again, like, and that's awesome that you're having those conversations and having the ability to.
For sure.
So with that sort of going into that idea of it, what has it been like for you in your relationship with your administration and being able to have those conversations, and how have you sort of developed your maybe even personal relationship in the sense of professional? I should have just said professional, but you personally, going from where you started to the point where you are now in your current role.
I mean, I think communication is probably the biggest thing, and speaking up when you need to. Which, like I said, I'm pretty introverted, kind of keep to myself kind of person, and I still have those tendencies. But you know, you got to put yourself out there. That's the bottom line. You know, communication is a big part, but being truthful, being honest, and you know, being able to back up what you're saying, you know, with data, whether that's, you know, studies that other people have done, or your own data. Like, look, I can show you this is, you know, what we have. This is what we can do, and being right, and that kind of proves your point. And you do that enough times, people are going to say, man, this guy's reliable. He knows what he's talking about. He's professional. You know, he's on the ball. He's taking care of things that he'd be taking care of before it. You know, you don't need a work order to make sure the field's ready. He's out there doing what needs to be done. And those kind of things kind of help you get your foot in the door and a seat at the table with those conversations. And then it's like I said, just being open and honest and being truthful. And here's what it is, laying it out there. And people respect that and learn to trust you. And that goes a long way.
I think the data thing is what's huge, you know, having information. A lot of people don't expect that going into things. And I think it's funny that people don't expect that, because it's like, hey, I have this information right here to show you that this is right or this is wrong. And they're like, wait, what? Like,
where'd you get that from? Did you pull it off the internet?
Exactly, exactly. Which I think, and those are the kinds of things that I feel like in your role, like, showing the people, I'm not saying like beneath you or anything, those working for years, like, this is how you get shit done. This is how you're going to progress. This is how we're going to make things better for us, and how we're going to make everything better for everyone, all of our athletes and all that. So big props for that. And it's just awesome to hear, you know, sort of diving into that side of things. You've worked with a lot of people in your career, and obviously you've been a great mentor to a lot of good people. What has it been like for you being a mentor? And at Liberty, I don't know if you knew this, you know, I'm a student at Liberty right now, actually.
Are you? That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
I'm doing my.
I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah. I should be graduating in the summer with my doctorate. We'll see.
Well, there you go.
If my
Dr. Miller, how about that?
That's gonna be weird. It's gonna be a super weird
that's
day.
Cool, though. That's
right
great.
Now. We're
that's
trying.
Fantastic.
We're trying. Yeah. So, what has it been like for you as a mentor, just being kind of that person that's been a guide and, again, a friend to those that need it when it comes to learning the ropes? I think one of your pretty recently went over to the Hillcats, right? One of your
Tyler Bergen has recently moved over there. Yep.
So things like that, where, again, progressing, moving forward, and having a career in result of your teaching and your guidance. So what is that like for you?
You know, I guess I could say it related to my management style. I guess I could say is relational, right? So like I kind of try to create a family type atmosphere where that open honesty. Hey, if you got something, ask me, and I'll let you know what's. You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to look out for those guys inside of work mostly, but also outside of work, or whatever it is. Just having that tight knit group kind of helps. And then, you know, one mantra that I've kind of gone over in my head a bunch. I don't always say it out loud, but you know, every opportunity is an opportunity for learning, right? Going back to the education part. So when something bad happens, it's an opportunity, right? For something to learn something. Okay, not going to do that again. I messed up. Or when something goes right, it's an opportunity for learning. Hey, this worked. Let's do that again. So, you know, I think if you make that a day-to-day thing in every situation, try to make it some way to, what can I learn from this? What can I gain knowledge-wise or experience-wise to help me going forward, to make me a better person, better sports cert manager, or whatever it is in my life. So I think that's kind of where I would, you know, say that works out.
I think that's I think that needs to be the most common theme throughout all walks of life. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity, because when you screw up, guess what? You got to get back to where you were, figure out what happened, how to fix it, and being able to have those moments, you know how to avoid it from now on, you know, things like that. And that's something that our class, that's what we live for, you know, is I don't live for it because I'm like, oh, here we go. But like,
well, I mean, it doesn't make you free from the consequences, right?
exactly.
Like, you screwed up. Oh crap! Now the field's bad. Now I got to figure out what I got to do to get it right. Well, now
but mine's
so
more.
It's so fun
like,
dealing with it in the meantime.
No, 100%. Mine's more. There's a 13-year-old doing something wrong. I gotta go fix that. Here we go. Like, it's sometimes out of my control whether it's a learning experience or not. But it's always interesting to see how they react to it. Which is.
Well, it's kind of funny that I'll let you ask your next question because that kind of leads into it a little bit. I have some thoughts on some of that. Exactly what you just said.
What? Go ahead.
Well, just as far as leadership, right? That's kind of what your next question that you had given me is about. And
sorry, my bad.
And for me, leadership is ownership, right?
Yeah,
like you own
100%.
it. So as a one-man crew, when I'm first starting out, there's nobody else to blame. I can't point the fingers at anybody. It's me. If it goes right, it's on me. If it goes wrong, it's on me, right? So yeah, I've tried to teach my kids, and as a crew, we talk about it, and it's also kind of how I have my crew divided up. Like everybody kind of has their own responsibilities field-wise, and I support them in every way I can. And there's certain things that I do, and all of that. But like leadership is ownership, and sometimes it's just leading yourself, right? But if one of my guys screws up, I can't, when somebody asks me what happened, I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so, I can't say that. Yeah. It's my fault. I'm the leader, right? I have to own that and say, I didn't train them right. I didn't give them the right tools. Something bad happened because I didn't think ahead. And you can't avoid those things. They're going to happen, but you have to own it. And when you own it, you kind of internalize it, and then you take pride in what you're doing, and you own up to your mistakes, and you learn from them, and you move on and do better next time. So that's kind of my mentality as far as that leadership style and how that kind of plays on to it. Now, obviously, that means you got to plan well.
Oh,
you got to communicate well. You have to have people that care. You have to prioritize, what's the first thing on the list? What's the last thing on the list?
Yeah.
And then being professional in everything you do and how you interact with people, how you talk to coaches and players and other team members, crew members, whatever that is. I mean, those all kind of mold into one big ball of, what it should be about.
100%. Like that's pretty much everything I try to teach my kids is all what you
absolutely. That's perfect. That's what they need. That's what we all need.
Giving them the sort of the guide on like, okay, it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. This is how you're going to have to, again, sort of adapt to what's going on, how to be professional, discussing things with certain people, how to properly use things, how to properly stay safe, all these different, there are so many things that, and I think it might be one of the main reasons that we have issues with like labor, shortages and whatnot is these kids and younger people. I mean, I used to be young, I guess.
Me too, about 20 plus years ago.
the lack of understanding that they need, it's not kid gloves, but they need like your help. They don't know.
They do.
And the amount of,
and they don't know what they don't know. I say that a lot.
You
don't know what you don't know.
That is,
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it goes further than like, oh my gosh, what are you saying? Because I find myself sometimes in class, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what? I told you to do this. Like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, that means that you failed to explain exactly what they need.
I will say that.
I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying.
No, 100%. There are times where I do, but there are also times where I'm like, you were not listening in class.
Yep.
So
exactly right.
I hear what you're saying for sure.
And that is a generational thing, I feel like, and I mean, not be like kids these days, like old, but it's for real. I mean, there's, this generation. You have to treat them differently, and I'm sure you're probably an expert in that. Yeah, cell phones is a huge part of it. The internet's a huge part of it. All of those things. Instant gratification is part of it. You can pull your phone up and get everything you need to know and want right now. Boom, there it is.
Yeah,
there's no delayed satisfaction. Nobody knows what that is anymore.
No, I hear you, and it's stuff like that I feel like as an adult we need to understand. And I think people, again, I don't have a kid, which you can probably speak to this. I feel like parents have a better understanding of it, than most people. So sort of taking that sort of, and again, you developing the people and understanding all that makes a huge difference. Cause again, you understand what you want the standard to be. They learn it.
Right.
They're going to develop it over a couple of years. They're already in that sort of ownership stage where you give them the reins of the facility.
Yep.
And then they buy in, and then they do something like going over to the Hillcats, having his own opportunities and stuff like that. So
that's right.
It's
That's
awesome.
exactly right.
Awesome to hear and
Yep.
great to have in your shop, obviously, and on your crew. We sort of discussed this a little earlier when you texted me. I was like, I guess I didn't really focus on
It
asking the
wasn't
right
clear.
part. No, yeah. When it
Yeah.
comes to your work and everything, and you sort of deciding on how things are done, things for your crew, whether it's time off, what needs to be done, how we're going to get it done. What is it that you're prioritizing when it comes to making decisions just overall with your work, whether that's buying equipment, maybe to make things easier on your guys, maybe
Yep. Yep.
creating more vacation days when you can, so that when you have to keep
Yeah.
them later, like how are you doing? Like, what is it that you're doing and focusing on with all of the decision making that again, every day is a decision. Like,
For sure.
so
And a lot of days it's 100 decisions. And so I would say the first thing is priority wise. Like I said, we've got NCAA sports, we've got high school sports. Obviously, we have to kind of prioritize the NCAA sports, and then it's kind of the high school stuff, and then it's the events that are happening today. Those have to be prioritized, and then maintenance. So there's kind of a list of what's the most important thing, and that's kind of a get. That's not written down necessarily, but everybody kind of knows what. Okay, these are things that are top priority, and we talk about that daily, basically, and sometimes multiple times a day. But then as far as, equipment and things like that goes, I need stuff that's reliable. When you have a small crew and you really, we have a lot of acreage to take care of. And right now I'm at full capacity. This is the biggest crew I've ever had. And I actually have like seven full-time guys, which is for some people that's like medium-sized crew. Some people that's a lot. Some people that's like nothing. But for us, it's a, over the last 2 years, I've done most of our work with like 4 or 5 guys. Now we're up to 7, which is good. That means we can get the details, the small things that you don't always get without having all the people you need. But but as far as having equipment, it needs to be reliable equipment. When something breaks down, I don't necessarily have a backup. So if you've got good equipment that's been maintained well, nice sharp blades or reels, whichever it is, those kind of things are super important. So those are priorities. To me, take care of your equipment. It's going to take care of you. If you don't have that thing, how are you going to get the job done without it? Whatever it is. So that matters. And then using the right, decision wise, using the right materials. On a this alludes to another question, but on a field where you've got dirt next to artificial turf, which dirt are you using to make sure that it kind of stays where it's supposed to and not into the turf, those kind of things. So it's reliable, efficiency, and what works on a consistent basis. Those are kind of how we prioritize. What the decisions we make as far as crew and people and equipment and those kind of things, materials we use, the right. Do we get a water soluble nitrogen and put it out 5 times a year during the summer, or do we get a slow release, extremely long slow release fertilizer, put it out once and it feeds all summer long? Well, we just saved a bunch of time and really cost between fuel and equipment wear and tear and time on the time of doing it. So those are the kind of things that I think about in my mind on a regular basis. Is okay, how can we do this better? And some of that stems back from being a one-man crew, especially if something, especially at that time, something broke down, I was really in trouble. There was nothing I could do, so those kind of having that background kind of helped me kind of develop systems and prioritize things to be able to be efficient and get things done in a high standard, but also quickly.
absolutely. Liberty, listen, he's saving you a lot of money and time. Come on.
They know.
They understand that now. And that's crazy how, again, sort of taking what you've learned and implementing it, how that has saved you a lot of time and energy for your crew. And I think, again, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
I say awesome way too much on this podcast. I figured that out the other day. With that,
I think we all have certain words that we say a lot and we don't realize it.
My filler is I'm like, oh geez. You sort of discussed it. Obviously, artificial turf and clay are not the best things. And I think I've talked to you about this like personally, because you guys, when you first put in the artificial softball, you guys put in sort of what's it called, Hilltopper or something?
Yeah. Stabilizer Solutions is the name of the company that makes it. It's a
do you still have
polymerized dirt. We do not.
Okay. So what was sort of what? And again, that was my favorite part about your response to that was the fact that the materials. A lot of people don't think like that. And I think that plays a huge role in, again, sort of the success of the field, the playability and all that. And again, nothing against people that love their products and whatnot, but like we use Dura Edge. Like Dura Edge is something that has proven time and time again to withstand the season, withstand the strain and all the different things.
Sure.
And what with artificial, sorry, shifting back to the question, I got off again.
Yep. Yeah, you good.
What has it been for you, sort of taking care of the idea of no sort of migration of the clay into the artificial and all of that? And how have you changed? Obviously, we were talking about Hilltopper a second ago to where you are now. Because I remember at Tech, we just had the mound, and it was a pain in the ass for just the mound. You know, like you have a whole infield, so like I can't even imagine what you guys are doing for taking care.
So number one, I would say it's inevitable when you have dirt next to turf or grass. It doesn't matter. It's gonna move. It's gonna get some into the one or the other or both. You know, it's gonna happen. The best thing you can do is minimize that. So, well, you know, that I will say that the Stabilizer Solutions product, and I'm not trying to, you know, sell a product or say something's terrible, but it was what it was.
Experience.
You know? Yeah, exactly. In other climates, it might have worked better. For us, it was hard as a rock, and you couldn't manipulate it in any kind of way. You know, on a normal infield skin area, you can add water, less water, nail drag deep or light. There's different things you could do. That material was what it was. And it honestly, for us, it was hard. It was a little dangerous because it was hard as a rock, to the point that on a softball, the seams are pretty raised. So if a ball was skipping along the ground, it could hit one of those seams and just pop way up, you know? So, and that's just because of the firmness of that product. So like I said, it did what it was supposed to do. It didn't really migrate into the turf too much compared to something else would. We do not have edge as far as right now on that infield. We have, Luck Eco makes a product very similar. And I'll tell you, and from what I've done, and I'm sure other people could speak a little more specifically to this, but the biggest thing that Durage has done is kind of standardized a blend, right, of that sand silk clay, and gotten a good mix in a repeatable way that it's consistent product pretty much all the time, right? So that's kind of, in my mind, that's kind of their biggest thing. And it's good. It's awesome. We don't have it. For us, when we rebuilt that infield with a different material, I mean, the cost was the biggest thing. It was, you know, cheaper to go with a different product. And Luck Eco's product has been awesome for us.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it has been fantastic. And as long as you maintain it properly, you know, keeping that moisture correct.
You gotta learn.
You know, if you let it get dry and then you get a hard rain on it, I mean, of course that's, you know, silt that's on top is going to wash out into the turf. So, you know, you got to keep it blended well and keep the right moisture in it. And besides that, on a daily basis, you know, my guys that works with softball specifically, I mean, it's constant brushing and sweeping and blowing, trying to keep it into the dirt as much as possible. I talked about this a little bit earlier. We just replaced the turf on that field last summer, and we had one of my guys had an idea of, hey, what if we got some like turf saver tarps and kind of put around the edges for practices and camps, and when we're not playing a game, let's put something on it so the dirt can't even really get to the turf. And that so far has worked pretty well. Time will tell. You know, we've had them off for the last couple of months now with a lot of games and stuff going on, but we plan on nailing those down this summer and seeing how that goes, and hopefully that'll help some too. But really, it's the right product. And so to speak to that on baseball, we do use black stick mound clay on that because it tends to, if you keep the right moisture and keep it compacted well, it chunks out and it's a little chunk of clay instead of being a powder that gets into the turf and you can't get out. So by using that at the end of a game, we go around with the back of a rake, just kind of walk around and scoop all those chunks up and it keeps it pretty clean. And if things do get bad, which they have for us, we've tried everything and anything, and pressure washing, blowing with the hose, and whatever else. I even tried to get Stanley Steamer to come out and say, hey, you guys clean this turf like it's carpet? They wouldn't do it because they thought it would ruin their machine. So I've heard other people doing that and having success. I don't know. I don't have experience. I tried. But there's also a machine.
What are we doing?
Stanley Steamer, like a carpet clean. Yeah, come on. Yeah. You know, I tell you, there's probably a good business opportunity if somebody could figure out the magic, you know, potion to fix that problem. But for us, it's really trying to stay on top of it, not letting it get to the point that it's bad enough that you need to go to those extremes. And when we have in the past, Redexon makes a machine called the Eliminator. It's almost like a phrase mower for artificial turf.
Yeah.
And it'll take out but when you do that, it takes out the sand and rubber and everything else. So you got to
everything comes out with it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but if that's what it takes to get the dirt out and get it back to, if the turf is in good shape, that's what it takes to get it clean, and then you put new sand and rubber in it. Not the end of the world.
Not
So
the worst.
It's just it is a headache and it's a lot of work, but it's part of it.
So I have the final two questions, which I actually just noticed I did not send to you. They're very easy, I promise. It's the ones that we end every podcast on, because it's always interesting to see your take on it and whatnot.
Sure.
So this question, it's not to make things easier on your journey through the industry, not anything like crazy. If there was one thing that you wish you knew going into, again, your job at Liberty to where you were going to be, again, a sports field manager, what would that one thing be and why?
One thing I knew ahead of time. Probably if I had known how many things I would miss with my family, to be honest, when my kids were younger.
Gotcha.
It's a little easier now with the position I'm in and the good crew that I have. I'm able to go do the things I need to do with my family. When I was younger and they were younger, that was a little more difficult. I have an amazing wife and kids. They're very understanding, and as much as they could, they'd come to work. They'd come to the games, and they made a lot of good friendships that way too over the years. And it's been awesome to have that. But I think that's the one thing. If I had known that, I would try to have done things a little differently. And I don't regret what I've done in my life with my work or anything like
100%.
that. And they're proud of what I've done, and we're happy. But I personally wish that I had taken steps or could have taken steps to maybe make things a little different time management wise.
And I think that's a common thing among everybody, just having the opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, my guys got this. And you being a one-man crew, you couldn't really do that. So
no, it wasn't a possibility for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So that's awesome. And it's important to know if you're entering this field.
Absolutely.
Leading into my next question, with our kids, we're actually coming up on like 3 weeks until graduation. For kids that are looking to get into the industry, what would be your best words of advice for them when it comes to, again, finding their way in this world?
Number one, I think I would take it back to that leadership, right? The ownership, own it, lead yourself, and be disciplined in all areas of your life, because really that kind of creates, there's an author, he was a Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's got a great podcast. I've read his books. And that's kind of where I get some of those ideas from too, from leadership stuff. But, he says that discipline equals freedom. And it's really true, because if you can be disciplined in all areas of your life, you can do the things you need to do. But you can also do the things you want to do, be disciplined, and lead yourself and take ownership of your actions, whether those are good or bad, and learn from them and move on.
I love it. I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know I got to get you out of here. Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Drew. I appreciate having me on, and I appreciate what you're doing, leading the next generation into the sports surf industry. We all need to be working at that, doing a better job of creating those next sports surf managers.
We're trying. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but we're
working on it.
Yeah.